Good evening. Thanks for tuning in tonight. This is the lineup, and we're coming to you live from the Athletx Sports Group studios here in Louisville, Kentucky. I'm Rick Goff. I'm your host for this evening, joined by my producer and co-host for the evening, Anthony Grassi. Anthony, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me back on the main stage, Rick.
I got to be honest, I'm coming to you guys with a heavy heart tonight, and the show might be a little tough for me to get through in the beginning. So I appreciate your patience and your understanding. I got news before we came out of the air. I lost a close and dear friend of mine, Chris Elliott, to a battle with COVID-19. And the news came down a few hours ago. Chris was a wonderful, wonderful human being, a great friend, a great father, coach, teacher. Any adjectives that you can use to describe this man, Anthony, doesn't do him justice. You know, it's hard for me to go through this, but I know Chris's love for baseball and his passion for youth sports. He would appreciate the fact that we are going on with the show tonight and moving forward. Chris was a baseball coach himself. He coached the Flat Rock Rams out of southeastern Michigan. Flat Rock High School, he led into a state championship in 2001. He was also a basketball coach. He was an official. He was an umpire. I mean, the man was an absolute legend in Monroe County, southeastern Michigan. He would always have time to talk to you, no matter what the sport was. He was also an avid sports card collector, as I am, so we discussed that at great lengths on many occasions. I saw him when I was back in Michigan 6-8 weeks ago. We were at a local card shop in downtown Monroe, and I stopped in just for a minute. Chris was there, and next thing you know, I ended up spending an hour and a half there sitting in this card shop talking to Chris. His son, one of his sons, he has twin boys, one of them was with him. And we just chatted. It was almost like it was like a barbershop environment. And I'll miss those talks. I'll miss his infectious smile, his great outlook on life. He leaves behind his wife and 3 kids. My heart goes out to them, all of his friends and family. Chris will be missed. He was a big Buckeye fan like I was. So one last time, Chris. Go Bucks and OH. All right. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Let's begin the evening with our recap from the weekend. We had a couple of teams that had some good weekends over the past few days. We're going to talk about one of them right now. TBS number 17 ranked 12U team, the Southern Madison Sluggers. They went 3-0 on Sunday to take home the victory in the championship, outscoring their opponents 22-10. So congratulations to the Southern Madison Sluggers, our preseason number 17 12U ranked team. Another team that we want to mention is our number 3 11U team. I've done this before. Our number 3 11-year-old team, Backyard Ballers Black, out of Texas. They actually challenged themselves, and they played up in the 12-year-old division this weekend down in Texas, going a perfect 5-0 and winning that age group. So congratulations to Backyard Ballers on challenging themselves to playing up in the age group. And Anthony, I got to tell you, when I see teams like that take that step and kind of get out of their comfort zone and their shell and challenge the boys, that's impressive.
Well, it'll stand out when we come back around to doing rankings again. It's not something they have to do, but taking that risk almost, if you're focused on just the record and the numbers, to go out and play against guys older than you in a different place, it'll make an impact on us when we start looking at all that stuff later in the year.
Yeah, and when teams do that, there's a couple of different approaches. Even back when I was coaching, when you get to those even ages, excuse me, when you get to those ages that you can play up and still not change dimensions, right? So 9 and 10, you play the same dimensions. 11 and 12 play the same dimensions. So there's always that fine line when you're an 11-year-old team and you're pretty good as the backyard ballers are. If you stay in your own age group, you run the risk of sometimes going into a tournament and not being challenged, or not, being able to do what you want to do. I mean, a lot of these coaches at this age and this level, they have a plan. They want to get so many kids into pitching. They want to get some lineup changes. They want to give some kids some new opportunities to play in different positions. And that's not always possible when you do that. So your other option is to play up. You play up. Now you're in close competitive games. And at the end of the day, that's what makes you better.
Exactly, yeah. And if you're playing those, there's always a chance that you show up to an event and, you far out match the competition, or just things happen to go your way. You get a lot of lucky bounces, and you end up not having to, or not being able to get a lot of guys the opportunities at all the positions that you want, so that when it comes later in the year, when teams are at the TBS Nationals, they won't have as much experience under their belt. Yeah,
and I tell this to teams all the time, and sometimes people look at me funny, but actually losing is good for you just as much as winning is. It builds character. It teaches you certain things on how to react, and it teaches you to be a good teammate. It teaches you to be supportive. It teaches you, a lot of things. You can lose with grace. So when you go up and play up in age against 12-year-olds, that has a possibility of happening. And when we did it back when I was coaching, the better teams are still going to have a great deal of success at that next level playing up. Now, they're not going to be as dominant as they are on their age level, but they're going to have a good amount of success. So congratulations to those guys and any teams, not just the ballers. I mean, a lot of your top level teams do that periodically throughout the year. They go out there and they challenge themselves and play up. And even it still happens from 10 to 11, even though there's a base change, base dimensions, pitching dimensions, they still do it. Kind of show the kids, kind of get them a preview of what's going to happen.
Yeah, we talked about that last week or a couple weeks ago about doing the same kind of deal for 12s and 13s, whether the 12s should just make that change at the high level. But I imagine even though the field dimensions change, a lot of 12s are probably certain weekends playing up at 13 just to – for all the reasons you mentioned, and to get the guys ready for the next year.
Not as popular at that age group, but it still happens. So congratulations again to our number 17 12-year-old team, Southern Madison Sluggers, and our 11-year-old number 3 team, Backyard Ballers Black, which both will be at the TBS Nationals come June. And, we're going to have to do a show on that preview for some of these age groups here pretty soon. Because that 12-year-old division, folks, if you haven't seen that 12-year-old division, go to tbsnationals.com and take a look at that list for 12U. I'm telling you, it is the best 12-year-old tournament in the entire country. If you're a good 12-year-old team, you need to be in Kentucky.
Place to be.
Yeah, it's a place to be. So before we go on any further, I want to remind you that we are still taking submissions for our top plays of April, which that show will be 2 weeks from tonight. We'll do our top 10 plays from April. You can send those submissions via email to thelineup@athletx.com. Send those clips in, and we'll go through them, and we will have the top 10 show 2 weeks from tonight. All right. While we're doing the recap, I've decided that we are going to, quote unquote, we're going to adopt a Major League Baseball player for the year. And we're going to give a lineup update, recap about what he does every week from here on out. And we've decided that we're going to adopt Jacob deGrom. Good old Jacob.
Yeah, you and I have had multiple conversations about deGrom and him within the Mets organization, which, everybody's got their own opinion on them, and his potential success for this calendar season.
Well, he pitched since our last show, and we highlighted him on his last show about what he has absolutely done and come up on the short end of the stick. He pitched again one more time since our last show, and he faced the Rockies, 6 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 3 runs, but 0 were earned. They scored all the runs through errors. I think they made 2 errors in an inning, and they put up 3 runs. And the next thing you know, old Jacob deGrom is staring down a 3-0 deficit. Again, no help from his offense. And just when it looks like he's going to be snake bitten one more time.
Go 3 for 3 to start the year.
3 for 3 to start the year. His offense steps in and finally helps him out, scores 2 runs in the top of the 7th, and they pull out the 4-3 victory to give Jacob his first win of the year. Oh, I forgot to mention, in 6 innings, he struck out 14 batters. So I'm pretty good at basic math here, Anthony. And if he pitches 6 innings, that's 3 outs an inning. That's 18 possible outs.
A lot of guys sitting back down.
And Jacob sends 14 of them back to the dugout.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat line for a guy to start the year. 1 for 2, or 1 for 1. No, 1 for 2 with a 0.45 ERA.
0.45. That's got to lead the majors.
Which is just disgusting.
That's got to lead the majors. So he's got a 1-on-1 record with 1 no decision,
right,
with
yes.
a .45 ERA.
Yeah, he's got 20 innings pitched and 35 strikeouts.
So we're going to adopt Jacob deGrom on the show. We're going to do an update for him every week to let you guys know exactly what he has or what his team has not been doing. And I told you when the show started, we did our predictions, I told you he would win 20. He should be 3-0.
He should. He leads the majors in ERA, and the guy behind him at .47 is none other than San Diego Padres pitcher Joe Musgrove.
Joe Musgrove, who threw the no-hitter
a couple weeks ago, who threw a no-hitter. No big deal.
So he is really close. I mean, look at this. He is this close to being 0-1 on this season with 2 no decisions. If they don't score 2 in the top of the 7th, and that was a shortened game, by the way. The Major League Baseball rule now has the doubleheader 7-inning format. So they put 2 up in the top of the 7th. They shut him down in the bottom of the 7th to get the win. Or he's that close from being 0-1, 3 games in the season with a .45 ERA.
Yeah, I don't know if that's been done before. I don't know if it's going to be done again. Hopefully it won't, because I would not wish that on my worst enemy.
That's amazing. And we talked about it last week, is how much longer is he going to put up with this? You know, I mean, he's got to be frustrated. Frustration has to set in at some point.
I imagine he is, but I guess you can be a little frustrated if there's enough money in the bank.
What more can he do? What more can he do? He struck out 14 of the 18, so they put a few balls in play. They made errors. He's down 3-0. I mean, it's got to start weighing on you. He thinks about it.
It's got to sit back there, just in the back of his head as he's walking back out there every time.
Maybe I can put in a call to the Mets and they'll set up an interview and we can talk to him. What do you think that chances of that happening?
I think our odds are quite long.
Nah, they're probably quite long.
They're probably about the same odds as having a .45 ERA and having no wins.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, you know what the old saying is, you don't know until you try. So
that is true.
Maybe we'll put that on our list or something to do later on this week. All right, let's get on to the next one. Oh boy, this one set the travel baseball world upside down on Saturday, without even the intention of doing so. But we referred to it here as the bus.
Yes, the almighty bus.
And we're not talking about Jerome Bettis, the former Pittsburgh Steeler running back. We're not talking about him. We are talking about the Canes Midwest from Indianapolis, Indiana, and their means of transportation to get their 12-year-old team to a tournament in Elizabethtown, Kentucky this weekend. And there you see the picture on the screen of a bus they have converted into their personal team bus. That thing rolled up to the park on Saturday, and it had everybody buzzing. There was people out there taking pictures. They were standing in front of it. Kids got a real kick out of it. Not just the Canes themselves, but opposing teams, different age groups. They all got a kick out of this bus. And so we posted a picture on TravelBall Select social media about the bus. And my question was simply is, how did your 12-year-old team arrive to the game this week? Personally, I think this is a very cool thing for the Canes to do for these 12-year-olds. And before you guys bombard me with all these negative comments, and we got quite a few of them on the TravelBall Select page, but there was also quite a few of them that took it in stride. When I asked the question, what did you arrive in? I got some very, very funny answers. My favorite one came from a viewer that put up a picture of Jed Clampett and the Beverly Hillbillies and their automobile. And he said he came with Grandpa and Grandpa today. So that one made me chuckle. I don't remember who posted it, but if you're listening, thank you for that. It made me laugh. But I think this is it's good for the kids. Let's let them have a little fun. There's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with a little fun, especially when we are dealing with youth baseball, as we always like to come back to. It can get lost in the shuffle very easily with everything that goes on in a day, week, month, season, but it's fun.
Let me give you a little background on the bus. So the bus is actually designed for the high school kids. When they go out of town, you've got kids, you're talking about 16, 17 years old. Mom and dad don't want them driving to Texas or Kentucky or Georgia or wherever they're going in their own personal vehicle, right? So they meet up, they get on this bus, and then they travel to wherever they're going. It's for the high school kids. Well, we're in April right now, and these high school kids are playing high school baseball. They're not traveling right now. So they have an opportunity to loan this bus. That's maybe not even the right word, but allow teams to use this bus on a weekend when they go travel somewhere semi-local. I mean, they're from Indianapolis. They drove to Elizabethtown, Kentucky. It was probably a couple-hour drive.
Yeah, it's probably a 3-hour drive.
Three tops. Boys got a great experience out of it. They loved it. And this coming weekend, I'm sure that bus will maybe be with a 10-year-old team or a 13-year-old team, and wherever they go. It's not like the 12-year-old team uses it every...
It's not like it's the 12-year-old team bus.
It's not the 12-year-old team bus, right. It's not the 12-year-old team bus.
As a lot of people probably got the impression when A, we posted it with that, and B, if you were down at the E-Town Sports Park this weekend and you saw a bunch of 12-year-olds roll out of that thing, you probably had a little head tilt and were like, what exactly is going on here?
Well, head tilting is a mild way to put it. And I saw a bus, this was probably 7 or 8 years ago. There was a team that come up out of Texas, and they were called the Longhorns. I think they were 11, but that's how they came from Texas to the Nationals in Georgia. Is they had their own personal bus. It was wrapped, and they pulled up to the park in Georgia, but parents got off of it, the players got off of it. It was no different than this Canes bus. It was probably a Greyhound bus that was put out of service, and they took it over and made it their team bus, and it was kind of neat back then. So I've seen this model before. It was pretty cool. I'm pretty sure the kids got a real big kick out of it. I didn't get a chance to talk to the kids. I wanted to, but man, they were on a mission. They marched right off the bus, went to their batting cages, did their business, and went to the field and played. So didn't really want to interfere with them or, kind of pull them away from what they were doing. And so it was neat for the kids. And, people keep asking, well, what did they do over the weekend? How did they play? And listen, they played extremely well. They played very well. Unfortunately, it wasn't their weekend, and they did lose in the playoffs on Sunday. But that's not to take anything away from the experience and what they did. And you see people making negative comments on there on the Facebook page, and I'm thinking to myself, why? I mean, what difference does it make to you if they're riding in a bus or not?
I don't know.
It's listen. I can tell you this. If their kid was on that bus, they would think it was the greatest thing ever.
Greatest thing since sliced bread.
I know
I would.
Yeah.
If I was 12, rolling up to a tournament on the weekend, why not?
Another funny comment we got from one of the viewers. And again, these people took it in stride, right? So they played along with the what did your team arrive in this week. one of the posters put a picture of a normal high school bus that your high school varsity teams travel into week from week. And he mentioned something, and I'm paraphrasing here, is like, well, how are the kids going to react to this bus when they're used to the comfort of a charter bus, right?
Yeah, when they got a regular school bus.
Yeah. So, I thought that was kind of funny. So kudos to everybody that played along this weekend with their comments. I appreciate that. That's kind of what I was going for. And the people that were negative, don't take it too seriously. It's all in good fun.
Yeah, they're still kids.
They're still kids. Let them enjoy it. And I got news for you. The people that are probably following the TravelBall Select page, they're probably on high-level travel teams. Well, you're talking about those kids being on a bus, and I'm sure there's some people back in your neighborhood that are talking about you even being on a select team and paying all this money to travel all over the country.
Yeah, it depends on where you're sitting, I guess.
It's all levels, right?
There's levels to it, yeah.
Right. It's all levels about, what you're doing and how you're looking at things from 10,000 feet.
Yeah, I guess I understand the initial reaction, which is probably what a lot of people's was if they were just scrolling through their Facebook feed and seeing this, was thinking that it was just the 12-year-old teams. And I know I thought the same thing when I first saw it, but then I was like, I've heard that team name before. I've seen them around. There's no way it's just for this one team. I wasn't familiar with the high school team, but I figured they had a whole bunch of teams at a whole bunch of different levels. And obviously the Canes organization is fairly large.
Sure. What a great recruiting tool, though, right?
Oh, you aren't kidding. You are not kidding at all.
Hey, come join us, and you get a ride on the bus.
Ride in style.
You get a ride in style. Ride on the bus. And now, I did not get a chance to actually go on the bus and look at it, but I did. I had to go get something out of my car, and I walked by it. You could tell that the seats inside this bus were custom. They had the Canes logo in the headrest. They were pitch dark black seats with the yellow C in each individual headrest. So they put some money into that bus. That's for sure.
I bet.
Yeah. So, it was fun for the boys. We'll leave it at that. They enjoyed it. Everybody got a kick out of it, watching it pull up in the parking lot, and here comes the kids getting out of it. I sent you that picture. I sent it to you and Matt on Saturday when it happened. You opened up my text message and looked at it. What was the first thing that you thought about? That I was at a high school event? Did you think that?
My first thing was, how much did that cost?
I think that was Matt's same sentiment, right? Because he's like, what did he say? Something about the bottom line or the budget. What's the budget for that look like?
I think it was something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, leave it to Matt. Always thinking about money, right?
Always.
No, he's doesn't look at it for just a small picture that it's worth. It's about money. But I don't know where the bus is going to be this week. Maybe they're coming to a town near you, and you'll get to see what the bus is all about. But it was a lot of fun. It was a big talk on social media, on Instagram, and on our Facebook page. And a lot of people had different thoughts on it. So we'll leave it at that. We had a lot of fun with it, and I was glad to see everybody engaged in the post as well, and the Canes 12U Midwest team. So we don't know who the bus is going to this weekend, but if we find out, we'll be sure to share it with you. All right. We'll go on to the next topic here. A few days ago was Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball, which is probably my absolute most favorite day in all of Major League sports as an individual sport day. They honor Jackie Robinson. Every team, everybody knows this, they wear the 42 jersey. Every player does. And they honor him for his commitment to baseball, him breaking down the barriers in Major League Baseball. Every player, well, I won't say every player because that might not be true, but almost every player says thank you to Jackie for making it possible for them to play in the major leagues, what he did, how he handled himself. I'm sure everybody has seen the movies that depicting all of this. But what's your thoughts on Jackie and what he means to today's? How important is it? It's important.
It's changed the fabric of the sport as a whole. I mean,
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
that's the word I was looking for. He changed the fabric of the sport.
Yeah, it was revolutionary.
Yeah,
and it's easy to forget the context and the importance and the significance and even just how long ago it was. I mean, we always see the photos of Jackie Robinson in black and white, which makes us think that there was all this time ago. It was in another millennium, but I guess it technically was. But I mean,
well, for us it was, yeah, for sure.
But it is hard to put into words the impact on
and what he had to go through.
Even more so,
the trials and tribulations that he had to go through, and he could have very easily just quit, and most people probably would have. But he had some teammates that stepped up and supported him, and I'm sure that helped. And but he persevered and pushed through, and here we are today, thanks to, in big part, to Jackie Robinson. So, when that day comes around, I post something on my personal Facebook page all the time, and we put something on the website that it is my absolute most favorite day of the year to honor Jackie, to honor his to the sport, what he did for the sport. And you talk about, you have this list of people sometimes. It's like, oh, if you could have dinner, sit down and have dinner with anybody in the world, living or dead, who would it be? And number one on my list is Jackie Robinson. Man, I would just love to sit and talk to him about what it was like back then for him, and why didn't he give up, and why didn't he just stop? It would have been easier.
It probably would have, but that's why, I mean, there's a reason we have a day just for him. There's a reason that nobody else now wears the number 42 except for one day a year when everybody wears it.
Everybody wears it. And, it gives me goosebumps when I turn on the TV and I see everybody wearing 42. And I also applaud Major League Baseball that if that particular team gets rained out or something happens, well, you know what? Next day you play, you're still going to wear 42. So every person in Major League Baseball gets that honor of wearing 42 for one day. So I think that's a really cool thing that they do. I applaud them for it. And starting next year, here at TravelBall Select, we are actually going to create a 42 tournament at the Elizabethtown Sports Park in and around that April 15th date, the weekend before, weekend after, how it works out. But we're going to create that tournament, 42 tournament, for everybody that plays that weekend. They will wear 42 as well. We will create jerseys for every team that plays. And so those young men will get to wear 42 just like the big leaguers do. So that's something to look forward to next year. In 2022, we'll get some information out to everybody on how that's all going to develop and work out. But that's something that you should mark on your calendars, be on the lookout for it. It's exciting. It's something I believe in. It's something that I'm passionate about, and honoring Jackie and his commitment to the game and his input on the game. So we're going to do that next year at the Elizabethtown Sports Park. The 42 tournament in April. So hopefully you guys will support that. And I think it's a good idea as much as I do. I think it's a really good idea. So we'll see how that goes. All right, on to the next one. We're going to talk about Sean Kazmar. Kazmar, or is it Kazmir? Kazmar. Sean Kazmar Jr. And if you have no idea who that is, don't feel bad. I had no idea who it was either.
Neither did I. But we are going on back-to-back weeks or back-to-back shows where we're on here, and we have a story that we think that might be a movie someday. And for those of you who don't know who Sean Kazmar Jr. is, he is with the Atlanta Braves organization now. He made his reappearance in the major leagues 12 years and 206 days apart from his last major league start in September of 2008.
12 years ago.
Yes.
How old were you 12 years ago?
In September of 2008, I was sitting in a high school freshman class.
High school. You were in high school.
I was a freshman in high school.
So
just starting my freshman year of high school.
You were a freshman in high school, and the last time that he appeared in a Major League Baseball game.
And it's incredible. 12
years in the minors. The first question for me is why? You know, we talked about Jackie Robinson not giving up. Sean never gave up. 12 years he spent in the minors, held on to that dream, held on to that hope that, you know, he was going to get called up to the majors.
Yeah, and he holds, I think, just about every single record for, I can't remember the team name, in Gwinnett, their AAA affiliate.
I got to be careful here. It's the Stripers.
Yes, okay. I couldn't remember what the team name was. I knew it was some type of fish.
Stripers, right. And people get confused because they talk about the entertaining dancers that frequent a particular location. So it's not that. It is the Stripers.
But it's insane the amount of time that has gone between. He has the most games played, at-bats, hits, RBIs. And I was listening to something, I guess pre-game, I heard a clip from whoever was doing the broadcast. And I guess they asked him that because, I mean, everybody who knows somebody or has heard anything about the minors, all you really hear is about how much of a grind it is, all the long bus trips and all that stuff. And I guess Sean has two young boys, and he wanted to prove to them that he could make it back to the major leagues and prove to them that, you know, you persevere, you work hard, and you can achieve what you set your mind to.
Not only is it a grind, but it doesn't pay very well.
That is also true.
You know, it's so he literally is Crash Davis, right? I mean, he's Crash Davis.
Just might be.
And for those of you that might live under a rock and not know who Crash Davis is from Bull Durham. He is the catcher for Bull Durham who holds minor league records for home runs and hits and so forth in the movie. And if you've never seen the movie, oh my goodness, do yourself a favor. Go see Bull Durham. Or I can't go see it. That's like you're sounding at the movies. Watch Bull Durham. How's that? Watch Bull Durham. It is an absolute one of the best baseball movies ever made. You might want to get an edited version, though. It might not be appropriate for children.
Yeah, if you're watching it with the whole family, you might want to double check which version you got.
Yeah, double check which version you got. But anyway, he is literally Crash Davis. I mean, he holds all the minor league records. But I mean, what does that really get you? You hold the minor league record. I mean, is there a minor league Hall of Fame? Do we know? Is there a minor league Hall of Fame?
I think that just falls into the Baseball Hall of Fame because I don't think it's the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I think it's just the...
Oh, that's a good point.
So I think it just kind of falls under the same umbrella. But
I wonder if he has anything at the Hall of Fame.
They might be sending the jersey he wore back to the Hall of Fame. He is the... I looked this up because I thought it was interesting. Nobody in the last 4 decades has had a longer stint between Major League starts. It's the longest stint since Minnie Minoso, who had 12 years and 68 days spanning 64 to 76.
Minnie Minoso.
Yeah, and the longest stretch was back in the gap was spanned 1923 to 1945. So 22 years and 2 days is the longest stint out of the major leagues.
So Sean that wasn't even the longest stint.
No, but it's the longest.
You're kidding me.
Stint in, I mean, I'll rattle off when the longest ones ended. So it's 45, 34, 31, 45, 38, 45, 49, 29, 2021.
2021.
So it's been quite some time since anybody's accomplished anything like this.
I mean, that's incredible to think about it because there's not a lot of pain. There's not a lot of pain when you're playing in the minor leagues. You have to do everything yourself. You got to carry your own bags. You're probably sharing hotel rooms with other guys. You're crammed on a bus, driving from one town to the other. And when you leave that town, you're driving to another one. It's not a glamorous life. And for him to stick it out for 12 years, and you said it hasn't been done in the last 40. Well, there's a reason for it. One, either you get called up to the majors, or two, you're like, I can't do this no more. I gotta leave.
Well, yeah, and I guess the third would be you can't cut it.
Or you can't cut it.
Or you can't cut it. But I guess it's interesting if he's been in AAA for 12 years.
12 years.
He's obviously doing something right. I guess it's just a matter of it being the right time.
And if you don't know what he did at his at-bat, he finally gets called up. And there's no guarantees when you get called up. There's no guarantees you're going to enter the game. But they were playing the Cubs at Wrigley Field. The game was a blowout. Cubs were up big. And he gets the nod from his manager to go in there and get your at-bat in the big leagues. Now, in his last call-up, he was only in for defensive purposes, from what I understand. He never got a big league at-bat. So this time he gets the call, he gets a big league at-bat. And we talked about how this is going to be made into a movie. And what do you think he does?
Not what they're going to put in the movie.
Not what they're going to put in the movie, right? In the movie, I'm sure it's going to be he's going to hit a home run and trot around the bases with hands.
Yeah, they're going to put him in the bottom of the ninth, and he's going to walk-off grand slam and all that stuff. But
that's what movies are made of.
Yes.
But he grounded into a double play.
That's the way it rolls sometimes.
So not only did you make one out in your at-bat, you made two. 12 years. You waited 12 years, and you made two outs in your one at-bat. So, but you know what? I don't care. I bet you he was on cloud nine. I heard that his wife dropped everything and flew to the game.
Yeah, his wife was there. I think his parents were there as well.
Yeah.
It's one of those could be made into a movie someday story.
Yeah, and it's a feel-good story.
Yes.
So this gives us 2 weeks in a row a feel-good story coming out of the Braves organizations. So, kudos to the Braves. You guys are doing things right over there in the state of Georgia, my former home state. I'm proud to say that I lived there for almost 4 years, and happy to see that those guys are doing the right thing over there with those guys, and hopefully he gets another chance. I don't know if maybe did he get sent back down already? I know he was coming up. One of the shortstop got hit, so they brought him up.
I think they were in the middle of some transaction or something like that, and they needed a guy, and he happened to be the guy. So I wonder, we should have looked this up before the show, and man, shame on me for not doing that. But I wonder, what does he get for pay-wise for playing one game in the big leagues? I mean, that's something to think about. All those years of, grunting around on the bus and not making any type of money. I wonder what one paycheck for one day in the majors for him looks like. That's a good question. I don't know if I can find that quick. Even if we can't find it by the time we get off the show today, we'll have that information for you guys next week when we come on the show. We're going to tell you what he made for his one at bat, one day in majors. But man, he's got to be on cloud nine. He's riding the bus. Oh, yeah. I wonder if he got off the bus and went to get his own bag, because that's what he's used to. Probably did. It's habit. And people are telling him, no, don't worry about it. Somebody else will get it. Come on. Yeah, but if you've known for 12 years and you get the call, you're probably like, no, I'm going to carry it because it got me up here, and I'm going to keep carrying it until they send me back down. And then you go into the hotel, right, and you have your team meal. I'm sure that is next level. Next level, right. It's got to be next level to where you're on a minor league bus that might pull through a White Castle or something for you to buy your own meal, right? Who knows what that's going to look like? Yeah. But yeah, this is totally different, right? When you finally get there, and then I'm sure if he did get sent back down, and he's gonna miss it, and he's gonna, I want back. Well, I guess don't we all? Yeah. Doesn't everybody? Well, congratulations to Sean Kazmar for living out the dream. Kudos to you for sticking out that long and staying with it. Man, I tell you, my hat's off to you. And in my time at TravelBall Select, I've been fortunate
to have a few former major league players come through the TravelBall Select National Championships. And I make it a point to talk to every one of them at some point in time and talk about specifically their journey, the things that they had to do to get there, to get to that next level. Some of them were up there for a short amount of time. Some of these players made major impacts on their teams and long careers. And excuse me, I'm not going to sit here and name drop anybody. Nobody cares about who that is. But the stories that I found from these guys about their minor league experiences were fascinating to me. One of the players that I talked to, he says, Rick, I'm going to tell you something. Some of the best players in baseball are stuck in the minor leagues. And that didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense to me that they were stuck in minor leagues. So I asked him to elaborate. I said, can you elaborate on that a little bit? And he said, sure. He said, you take, for example, for the New York Yankees or the Baltimore Orioles, based on their day, we're talking about Derek Jeter. We're going to talk about Cal Ripken Jr. If you're a shortstop in those organizations at that time, where are you going?
AAA.
AAA. You're stuck in AAA. So you're not going anywhere. And, you know, he referenced players like Miguel Cabrera back in his prime that he thought there was a guy in the minor leagues that was better than Cabrera, but he wasn't going anywhere. So my natural reaction when you hear that is, well, why don't they trade him?
You got to keep him in case.
You got to keep him in case. That's exactly what he said. You got to keep him in case. And you don't want to trade him to, and we'll use Miguel and the Tigers for an example. You don't want to trade him to a Cleveland or even if you don't trade him to Cleveland, you trade him to somebody who he ends up in Cleveland, in your division, and he ends up beating you. So he talked about that and about how it happens. A friend of mine was a catcher coming out of college. He was a Johnny Bench Award winner. Johnny Bench Award winner, which tells everybody you are the best catcher in college baseball. Number one. Nobody's better than you. The two guys he beat out for that award that year were Matt Wieters and Buster Posey. Well, by judging by your face, you know who those two guys are, right? But the Johnny Bench Award winner that year was Ed Easley from Mississippi State. And he got drafted, and he ended up in Arizona. And he was stuck behind Molina. He was stuck behind Molina. And so he's not going to go anywhere. Now, there's not that many catchers in Major League Baseball that can hit and play defense. Mostly if Major League Baseball, they're looking for catchers that can just call a game, catch a game, block pitches. If you can hit, it's a bonus, right? If you can hit, it's a bonus. So he finally gets the news, gets called in the office one day and says, you've been traded. He's sad because he's spent a few years in Arizona, but he's also in the back of his mind, he's ecstatic. He's like, hey, maybe I get my shot now. You know, where am I going? Well, you're getting traded to the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yikes.
From one Molina to another.
Yeah, less than ideal.
Yeah. So he got called up a few times in majors and got a proverbial cup of coffee. And finally he retired and now runs a great baseball organization in Tennessee called Easley Baseball Club. And he has no regrets, loves everything that he did. And now he's given back to the game, which is awesome for his part. But, it kind of reiterated, hearing that story kind of reiterated what these other guys have been telling me all along is you got to be in the right situation.
Yeah, and, think about the case for Sean Kazmar. Like, okay, if you're a middle infielder for the Atlanta Braves, you're sitting behind Dansby Swanson, who was number 1 overall pick. Yeah. And Ozzie Albies. Now, the reason he got called up was because Albies...
He got hit by a pitch, right?
Yeah, so he was out. So that was the transaction that they had to figure out what they were going to do. So he, I guess, was the next guy up, and here we go. We got a nice story.
Well, kudos to Brian Snitker for making that happen, the manager, right? Sometimes in that situation, they go down to Double-A and pull that guy up. instead of the AAA guy for whatever reason. They want, going back, and I know I'm jumping around here, but going back to what these guys were telling me is, you're in AAA a lot of times because they want you to work on things, hitting behind the runner. As a pitcher, we want you to work on your changeup. We don't care if you give up 12 runs in a AAA game. We don't care, but we want you to work on your changeup. So sometimes when these things happen and it's a quick fix, they'll just bounce down to the AA team and bring it up and then leave the AAA guy alone because he's maybe in the middle of working on something. So kudos to Snitker for bringing him up and giving him that opportunity, man. That's something I'm sure he'll never forget. And I'm going to tell you, if it was me, the Braves ain't getting that uniform back. I'm just telling you that flat out. They ain't getting it back. Take it out of my check. Fine me, charge me, whatever you got to do. That thing, you're not getting that uniform back. I'm just telling you.
Not a shot.
Not a shot in the world are you getting that uniform back. Ain't happening. So, all right, let's get on to our last topic for the evening, and this is something that we've talked about in other shows. Major League Baseball is kind of bouncing around with some rules and some ideas to try to get people's interest in the game some more. And why don't you tell us a little bit about the latest one they've got coming out now?
Yeah, so they have two, we previewed a couple episodes ago the proposed rules changes or experimental rules changes for different levels of minor league baseball.
Yeah.
The proposed change for the second half of the Atlantic League season, which is the independent league where Major League Baseball likes to start all their crazy ideas. They are going to be moving the pitching mound back a foot.
A foot. 61 feet, 6 inches now is what they're going to move back to. That's the second half of the season. Not right now, right?
Correct. So that won't go into effect until the beginning of August.
Yeah, boy, I don't know what I think about this.
Yeah, it's tough because the rationale with basically every rule change that we have discussed on this show is they're trying to gas up the offense because it makes the game more exciting to the average fan to watch. More
puts
runs,
fans
more
in
scoring.
The seats. Yeah. Puts fans in the seats.
Yeah. So I guess does it work? Yes. I mean, the ball has to go farther, so it can't sustain the same speed over the same exact distance. I mean, I'm no rocket scientist, but I think I can do that math.
Man, I just don't know how I feel about this. Being a baseball purist, leave the game alone. But I understand why they're doing it. The last time they tinkered with the mound was in the 60s. They lowered it because Bob Gibson was dominant at the height of the mound. The mound was higher, and he's pitching downhill. And so it's been since the 60s since they've messed with the mound. And now they're talking about moving it back a foot. Boy, I tell you, if I'm a pitcher, I'm not happy about this.
I would imagine you're not, because it's probably going to bump your ERA up
Absolutely.
A couple points.
And that's in turn going to affect your money and maybe your chance to get to the big leagues. And holy moly, I mean, I'd be on a mass exodus out of that independent league if I was a pitcher. If I was a hitter,
sign me up.
Sign me up. You're going to give me an extra foot to see the ball? And I know people's like, oh, it's only a foot. Well,
talking about a game of
that's an eternity. You're talking about a game of inches.
Yeah.
So, that's a strange one. I just don't know how that's going to feel, because right now you got the pitcher's mound sitting in the middle of the diamond. Now you're back another foot. Does that give you, let's think outside the box here. Is that giving you some kind of advantage to pick off to first, or?
Well, yeah, that was the discussion when we first saw this come, across the wire. Was how does this change, the base running, which obviously will impact. I mean, given the other rules changes that we talked about, that's one of the variations to increase offense is getting guys more aggressive on the base paths. But if you're a foot back, you probably got a better look out of your peripherals on where the guys are at. You may have a better angle to throw to the bag. So maybe keep guys a little more honest.
It's got to be a bigger advantage to the lefties, as if they need a bigger advantage already. Yeah, I'm talking to all you lefties out there. You guys all cheat, and you know it, so I don't want to hear it. You guys all cheat. You're a step closer to the first base bag and pitching, and so I don't want to hear it from you guys. You guys all cheat.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the impact of it is. I know Major League Baseball has done some Rick's favorite word, analytics.
Oh yeah, let me hear those. I'm dying to hear those.
So here's all the science for you. I guess the context for how they're setting this up or making this argument is that the average fastball velocity in 2021 is the highest ever recorded at 93.4.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it.
Makes sense. The strikeout rate is also at the highest ever with 9.5 per 9 innings.
Now, that I think is a product of their own self, creating the launch angle aspect of it. And people are changing their swings. And I think, therefore, you're going to see more strikeouts.
Yeah, and there's like you're saying, there's other things baked into that
one,
number.
There's a little bit something in there. The velocity one, hey, listen, I can believe it the way these guys are throwing now. But the strikeouts, there's more to it than just the velocity of the pitcher.
So the projections, according to Major League Baseball's data, is that the pitch will look... So basically, the average velocity in 2020 was 93.3 miles an hour. They're saying if they move it back a foot, that the average fastball velocity will look more like what it did in 2010 at 91.6. In that same, 2020 to 2010, there were 8,500 fewer strikeouts. So you're taking... 1.5 miles an hour off the ball?
Yeah, but that stat doesn't resonate with me. I'll buy something else. I just think everybody's changing their swing now. That's why I think strikeouts are out.
They're saying, given the split second, every inch matters, every foot would give the hitters an extra 1/100th of a second to react, and that 1/100th of a second is enough to reduce projected swing and misses by 2.2%.
That's it? 2%?
2%, but
2%. That just doesn't seem like a lot. It doesn't seem like a lot if you're going to mess with the mound. You're messing with it to get a 2% difference. Doesn't seem worth it to me.
Yeah, but I guess it's all that's kind of in the aggregate. I guess where I guess over the course of the year, is there 2.2% more hits? Is there 2% more? Is there, I don't know, obviously not every hit scores. So is there 1.2% more runs?
So the 2.2% is just on swing and misses, right?
Correct.
That's just on swing and misses.
Which I guess they're saying that 2.2% more that the ball is going to be hit and put into play, or made contact with, gives it a higher likelihood of getting put in play, which is the action that I guess they are trying to instigate, which is the bane of every pitcher's existence.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought it would have been higher than that. If they're going to mess with something, it would have been higher. Honestly, I would have thought up around 5%, or why fool with it? I mean, I'm even more disappointed now that it's coming up this way, because I thought it would be a greater difference maker. Yeah,
well, I guess the other two things are, I guess the last interesting stat that they referenced here was, two interesting stats, and then the interesting part that there was a study looked at a bunch of college pitchers who threw from several different distances, and they found that moving it backwards, the likelihood of any effect on their biomechanics or injury risk is virtually nada.
Yeah, I can believe that. I can believe that.
The more interesting part is it's 60 feet 6 inches, but depending on where the catcher sets himself up, guys could be throwing an extra 3 feet, according to what I have in front of me.
Oh, sure. Oh, I get that.
So
I get that.
If your guy is sitting way far back, he's sitting 3 feet back. If you move the mound back a foot, the catcher moves up a foot, you're basically throwing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it all kind of...
Yeah, I can get that. I don't buy into the whole, moving it back a foot is going to make that much, difference. And, they're going to be more arm injuries. Nah, I don't buy that. Not at their level. I mean,
These guys are going to throw it through a brick wall.
Yeah. But you know what? I don't know why this just popped in my head. It's kind of crazy. Where did 60 feet 6 inches come from to start with?
It's probably, I don't know.
I mean, why did
common sense would say it's the center of the diamond, but
why would they come up with that distance? I don't think it is, though. I think it from home plate to second base is one. I should know this. I did know this at one time. Is it 123 feet or 118 feet?
Home plate to second base is, let's see. This says, nope, that's the running route. 127 and 3/3 of an
127.
inches.
So it's I was off on both things. So it's 127 feet. So that's not halfway. It's not halfway to the second base. So I wonder where that came up with. It's kind of like basketball. Why is the hoop 10 feet in the air?
Right. These things that have been around forever, we just kind of grew to accept them. Didn't ask any questions. It's just why it is the way it is.
Why is it 90 feet to first base? Why not 95 feet? Or, you know what? Yeah, it's just the way we've all grown up with it. We haven't messed with the game. And 60 feet 6 inches has been the mound distance. I got to believe back in the old days that they just said, they just walked it off and said, we're going to pitch from here. And here we go. We're at 60 feet 6 inches. I mean, you can see that for any sport. You know, why is the soccer goal as wide as it is, or the hockey net, why is it as wide as it is?
Yes, but those are the questions that us regular fans don't really ask because we're just happy to watch the game.
Who came up with the size of the baseball?
Well, I guess that depends on what year you're talking about, I guess.
Right. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Well, you got anything else to add? Any more facts or anything there for the...
I think that's about it. If anybody, I Googled it and on why it's 60 feet 6 inches, and I got a very random answer that I don't believe. So we'll defer to you guys that are
save it for another day.
Yeah, watching and listening. If you do know the answer, you can. If you know the correct answer, I should say.
Correct answer. And if it's on the internet, it's got to be true. So remember that too.
Well, according to this, this says that someone misread the distance on the blueprints, so they installed it at 60 feet 6 inches instead of 60 feet 0 inches. So I don't know if that's right.
I can buy it.
That would be so amazing coincidence.
I know, isn't that something how that comes on?
It just happened all the way back 100-something years ago, and we just said, you know what? We'll just leave it.
Maybe we'll do a show on why things are the way
they are.
Not just baseball, basketball goals and highlights and everything else.
Yeah, we'll leave that for an off-season episode.
Well, that'll wrap us up for tonight. I want to thank you for tuning in and joining us. I hope you had as much fun as we did and as we do hosting the show. Don't forget that we are taking submissions for our top plays of the month of April. You can send those to the lineup at athletx.com. We'll have that show 2 weeks from tonight, right here at 7 o'clock. We'll unveil our top 10 plays from April. But until then, I am your host, Rick Goff, joined by my producer and co-host for tonight, Anthony Grassi. I'm going to leave you with a follow-up to my good friend, Chris Elliott. If you want to put that back up on the screen, I'd appreciate it. I lost a good friend tonight, and he will be sorely missed by everybody. Chris Elliott, I know you're in a better place, brother, and my heart goes out to your family and friends back in Michigan, and to everyone else, thank you for tuning in. Have a good night.